Kristoff, I seem to be in a bit of trouble. What's this? Game not going well? Something like that. That gentleman who challenged you, he turned out to be good? He turned out to be dead. Someone hit him. Hard. You mean someone cracked that flawless bone china pate? Okay. It wasn't you, was it? Me? Please. The cops should be here any minute. I'm in your hands, should it come to that. Bone china... It definitely didn't say plate, it said pate, and I read it as pate. God, that's the first typo that I've noticed. Glad to be back in the Ace Attorney typo land. Bone china plate. A kind of porcelain, very smooth and shiny. Oh no, he did. He did say that. It wasn't a typo. Oh, I'm sorry for assuming. I mean, you guys have you've made so many in the other 3 games that I had to assume. I believe he was referring to a certain gentleman's balding forehead. The court appreciates the defendant's discretion in not indicating my forehead. Okay. Why do you think that he shouldn't have known that it was his head? I mean, I think that's implied when you say that he was hit hard. You generally assume that he would be hit in the head. He left the Borscht Bowl Club. Most certainly. Then how did he know? When did he see this bone china pet? Is it pate? Is that right? Oh, that's right. Yes, that was when I began to see my good friend in a different light. Troubled, I returned to the crime scene. And when I spotted Mr. Smith's head again, I realized, like, that's such a stupid slip-up to make. And I mean, I see it as something obvious, like, you said he was hit hard, so of course you would assume the head. So it's like, was Kristoff assuming that, and Phoenix looked way too much into it, which ended up being a good thing to do? Or is it really considered a slip-up? I mean, I see that as a pretty normal thing to say, but okay. Perhaps you would like to explain this to the court. Exactly how did you come by your privileged knowledge of the victim's head? So, this is your reason? The reason why you put the victim's hat back on? Your point, Mr. Gavin? It's come down to this, has it, Phoenix Wright? What's the point of putting the hat back on after you know that he already knows about the head? Order, I will have order, Mr. Payne!
Yes, Your Honor.
I believe this court has been left with no other choice. Okay. Very well, we'll break... Another break? Oh my god. Crystal clear, Your Honor. Very well, this will be the final recess for the day. Oh, then we can wrap this thing up. I'm surprised this is such a big case. Mr. Gavin and Mr. Wright are both in the judge's chamber. Who'd have thought today would turn out like this? May I? Ah! My daughter! Phoenix's daughter, god damn it. I gotta let it go, I'm not him anymore. Hello, sir. Please, pick a card. More cards? Shit. Is this one okay? Excellent. I have a message for you. The last hand is about to be played. Who is this message from? Is this from Phoenix? Is he using his daughter to send me messages? You'll need a trump card. Turnabout trump. Uh-huh. A trump card? The card you have chosen is magical. Use it wisely, and the game is yours. That's all. Okay. Whoa! A blood-stained ace of spades. I get it, because ace of spades is death. Was that the one that was supposed to be the 5th ace? It is true, I have seen it, the 5th ace. There was cheating, I swear to you. The missing 5th ace. Wait, this blotch of red. Is that blood? You have your trump card, now it's up to you to cut the deck and draw the truth. My father's fate is in your hands. I know you can do it. Okay. This blood-stained card is my trump card for finding the truth. Are you going to react at all to the fact that that was his daughter? No? Okay. I fell deep into thought as my mind raced to understand what this all meant. That girl. I'd seen her recently. But where? That's when I made the connection, because she literally said what the connection was. Yeah. Court will now reconvene. It's gonna be interesting, because like after Mia was gone, you know, we still had her help so often with the spirit channeling. I'm wondering if there will be any spirit channeling at all in this game. And it'll be interesting, because after Kristoff goes to jail, he'll just be gone, I guess, and Apollo will be on his own. Maybe Phoenix will kind of help him out the way he did here. Phoenix will be the mentor. That'd be kind of cool. Probably what it'll be. I don't know how much he'll be in the game. Is this farce necessary, Your Honor? Believe me, far stranger things have gone on in this courtroom. Fine, I'll play along. First, there's one thing we need to have made clear. How did you know about the secret beneath the victim's hat? By secret, I'm guessing he means the fact that Mr. Smith was bald. Oh, that's what it was?! Oh! I didn't even know that that's the part that was being emphasized. I just thought they were talking about the fact that he was hit on the head. I didn't realize bald was the big part that was important. That he didn't know he was bald. Oh. Okay, well that makes more sense. Phoenix is really smart to pick up on that, but yeah, that's how he is. Forgive my curiosity, but what is it about this fellow's head? Your Honor seems to have an inordinate interest in it. Because he was wearing the hat the whole time. If he only saw him in the hallway, he would have only seen him with the hat, so he wouldn't have known that he was bald. I didn't know that that's the part that was supposed to be important. That's fucking cool that Phoenix is over here with me now, yeah. Where Mia used to be. That's pretty cool. I hope he wears that outfit the whole game, though. I don't want him to go back to the suit. What do you think you're doing, right? Wow, things sure look different from the other side, you know what I mean? Apollo? Speaking of looking from the other side, let's consider something for a second. The victim wore that hat all night, never once taking it off except for that one time. That one time being the instant he was hit. Oh. When Mr. Wright returned from reporting the crime, the hat was lying on the floor. So it all makes more sense now. It makes sense why he would slip up like that and why Phoenix would take notice of it, so... Okay. Yeah. Mr. Wright picked it up and placed it on the victim's head. In other words, in order to have seen Mr. Smith's bald head, you would have had to be at the scene of the crime. At the time of the crime. In other words, you'd have to be the real killer. Is what you're trying to say. Not bad, Apollo. Ehehe. Mr. Gavin, I'm afraid that I haven't been entirely honest with the court. Mr. Smith and I were lovers. Oh, I assure you, I had the noblest of intentions. I did it all to protect my client, Mr. Wright. Yet I'm afraid in the current situation I see little reason to hide anything. Very well, allow me to tell you the truth of what happened that night. Finally, you may begin your testimony. Tell us, how were you involved in the events of that fateful night? The rage I sensed in that man that night troubled me, so I returned to the club. I went down to the basement and peeked in through the little window to the hideout. It must have been right after the murder took place. The victim was dead, as he appears in the photo. A bald head, an unconscious girl, and Wright holding a bottle in his hand. I sensed that was not the best place for me to be at the time, and so I left. That's when the call came from Wright. So you witnessed the murder? For better or worse, I missed the actual moment of the deed. Mr. Gavin, may I remind you that you are on Mr. Wright's defense team. Your testimony is clearly disadvantageous to your client. What else could I say? I'm standing on the witness stand, after all. So you are, Mr. Gavin. And you had to testify as you just did. You had to tell them you saw the scene of the crime through that little window. Mr. Wright? You had to say that, because that was the only probable window of opportunity. Literally, is a window. Oh. Mr. Wright, the defense should do the cross-examination, not the defendant. Mr. Justice, are you prepared? Yes, Your Honor. I can't believe I'm going up against Mr. Gavin. Why would Phoenix be allowed to be there? Why would he be allowed to stand over there? I mean, as if this courtroom has any rules. What am I saying? Any of the shit that's happened in here is insane. The rage I sensed in that man. So yeah, why did you sense this rage? That man, you mean Mr. Smith? He was different from the other customers, his aura, shall we say. I knew he was a serious poker player, but it was more than that.
So then you knew the true nature of your client's job?
Of course, but I also knew he wasn't engaged in gambling, which would be illegal. Well, it makes sense that he'd know. They were friends, after all. Worried for my friend, I returned to the club. You see, I feared this Mr. Smith might be someone coming to settle an old score. I see. What happened then? Okay. The little window. You mean the one used to keep watch up the stairs? Yes, a relic of the ancient past. The Black Marketeers used it, I believe. Why did you go through the trouble of peeking in through the window? Wouldn't it have been easier to just open the door and go into the room? I didn't want to upset Wright, you see. Upset Mr. Wright? Yes, what if my fears had been unfounded? I'd be walking in on that match. Bad form, to say the least. So far everything he's saying makes sense. How do you know it was right after the murder? Really, no need to shout, Justice. I never know when he's supposed to be shouting. I was just getting to that part in my testimony. Ah, there he is. The coolest defense in the West. Okay. Even when you're standing up there on the witness stand, some things never change. I was afraid you'd change too, right? But you haven't. Did that say East in the Japanese version? I wonder. With friends like these, who needs enemies? By photo, you mean the second photograph of the crime scene. Precisely, you see, he wasn't wearing his hat then. I saw his head when he was dead. And then Mr. Wright came along and replaced his hat.
Can you describe the scene of the crime for us?
Those were the only three at the scene of the crime. Yes, as far as I saw, at least.
Then we're back where we started. The killer was the defendant, Phoenix Wright. Who else could it have been? But why didn't you talk to the police?
2 reasons. First, I didn't actually witness the very moment of the crime. Second, excuse. My office was asked to defend Wright. Even after seeing what I had seen, I couldn't abandon my friend. There must have been someone else there at the moment of the crime. Justice, I just said I saw no one, not a soul. But that goes against what Mr. Wright said. Ah yes, this mysterious 4th person. Who would conveniently be the real killer, I suppose? Glad to see we agree, Mr. Gavin. Let me pose a question, then. Tell me, what possible reason did the real killer have to swap cards in the victim's hand? Perhaps you can show us a reason why such a thing would be necessary? How can I show something I can't find myself? Remember, Apollo, the card that was swapped out was the 5th ace. The 5th ace, right. Well, Mr. Justice, the question of why the killer would swap out a card has been raised. Can you point to a reason? I guess we're gonna do it. It's now or never. The defense would like to present evidence to the court. Evidence showing the reason why a card was swapped out. Then go ahead and point out your reason, Mr. Justice. So I guess it's the ace. 'Cause it had blood on it? Whose blood is it? You'd think it would be Smith's, but why would he have to hide that? My reason is, this.
Is that an ace?
Why, it's got blood on it! Maybe it's not even blood. But I would imagine it is. Oh, look at that twitch.
This is insane! Why wasn't I told about this? Why?
So what happened to the 5 of hearts? Anyway. Could this be the missing 5th ace? Inconceivable. How could you? What are you doing with that card? Well, that's the thing. Why is Mr. Gavin so upset? It's just a fishy card from some fishy girl. Oh, that card? So he still has not accepted that Kristoff is the murderer, obviously. I picked it up at the Borscht Bowl Club that night after the murder had occurred. I gave it to my daughter. Cards are her stock and trade, after all. No, impossible, unacceptable.
Inconceivable, even.
The court can't accept this evidence, it's a fraud. A fraud? How can you be so sure? What? I would think the only person who could claim it was a fraud would be the one who took the real card from the crime scene, the real killer. Allow me to elaborate. What if this trace of blood was the reason?
The reason for?
For the killer to take the card from the scene of the crime. Where are you going with this? Like, unless it's his blood, somehow, like he got attacked a bit. At the moment of the crime, his hat fell to the floor, and a trickle of blood ran from his forehead down the back of his head. Okay, so it is the victim's blood. I suppose. The killer then took the card to hide the blood. Why? Oh? Right, regardless of how you wasted the last 7 years, you used to be a lawyer. You know what a serious crime it is to conceal evidence. Oh, we can discuss the finer points of our legal system later. Well, he wasn't concealing. He's the defendant. He's not the one with the job here of presenting evidence, so it doesn't matter what he does. As far as I know, I don't know. What's important now is that I've answered your question. What are you talking about? You wanted to know why the killer would have taken a card from the crime scene, and now I've told you that one drop of blood would have been decisive evidence. Why? This is baseless conjecture. Baseless! Oh yeah! Showing Apollo how it's done. I assure you, it's quite based. What? It's amazing, really. How a single drop of blood on a single card can lead us to the truth. It's quite simple. Well, Apollo? Yes? Try picturing the scene of the crime. Try picturing the scene of the crime in your head. Okay. Whoa. Whoa, holy shit. The murder took place in the hideout. The body of the luckless victim was found at the poker table. And before the killer swapped a card out, there was a single card with a drop of blood on it in the victim's hand. Given this, there is one decisive problem with this scene. Well, what is it? Let's keep it simple, shall we? Given that there was a drop of blood on a card, whose position in this diagram doesn't fit? Well, if we're talking about the blood on the card, the one relevant there is the victim. Are you saying that he didn't die there? And that he was put there afterwards? I guess? Okay, I'm gonna go with that. Well, isn't it the victim's position that's the problem? I don't follow your logic here, Mr. Justice. Well, look, the victim was struck on the head, sending him back in his chair. You'd think any blood would fall behind the body. Well, I didn't know where the fifth ace was. Maybe I missed that. Take a look at the photo. I just assumed it was one of the cards on the floor, so it dripped onto it on the floor, but I guess not. If he bled in this position, the blood would fall on the floor, not on the cards. Why, that's right, so what does this mean? Incidentally, we were sitting in swivel chairs. Oh boy. Oh man. Apollo, try turning the chair around. Can I do that? Oh. Oh, cool. Oh, that's awesome. That's a neat little feature. I hope that's more prominent in the game. That was cool. It would have to be.